Hey, what's going on, guys? Got something really cool in the mail today that I want to do a little walkthrough, a little review. Tell you what I like about it. Tell you what I would change about it. But here we got the Hawg Trough. Everybody knows this. The old tried and true, I guess, or only option that we had up until this year for kayak fishing tournaments. If you fish them seriously, you know about the problems with these as far as breaking. I'm sure you've broken at least one, maybe multiples. Hopefully when you broke it, you had a second one on the boat with you, otherwise your day's pretty much over at that point. But yeah, so this is the Hawg Trough. You know, you can kind of hear crack just by moving it and bending it. But anyway, the real reason why we're having this video right now is this baby right here. This is the Ketch Board. Pretty new. I know some of you already have these. I know some of you have used these in some tournaments already. Had some time on the water. I'm looking forward to getting this on the water. I got the blue one that just came out. It kind of has like a purple hue. I don't know if you can see it, depending on how the light hits it. Hopefully this doesn't look just blue to you right now, otherwise I'm going to sound like an idiot. But it has like a purplish color to it when the light hits it, which is, you know, we're going to call it blue because I don't have a purple board on my boat. But I got the cradle with it. Just a little plastic piece, you know, to be honest with you. It's pretty rigid. It's a lot more rigid than the Hawg Trough. But if there was a piece on this board that was gonna break, it'd be this. So hopefully they can, you know, get these pretty cheap that you can, you know, order a replacement. I think they're like a $10 add-on maybe. I might be wrong. I'll put a link down in the description for this board. So you can see it for yourself. I think the board itself runs about 50 bucks, which sounds expensive for a measuring device, but when you think about how many Hawg Troughs you've probably gone through in the past, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, you're not going to break this. You're going to buy one. You're going to have one. The only time you would really need to get another one of these is if you dropped it over the side of your boat. Obviously, it's not going to float. My biggest piece of advice for not losing this over the side of your boat and having it sink is to not drop it in the water. That's pretty much all I got right now. But this cradle here, I mean, it slides nice and easy. It fits good, and you know they put this electrical tape on the back, and I think it's electrical tape. I don't really know. They put this highly scientific, a lot of research development went into this tape, I think. But this basically, once it hits that, it's going to slow it down and, you know, really grip it for the past little bit there. And now it's kind of locked in there. You can obviously, if you want to pull, you can pull it off. But when you're on the water, it's not just going to slide out as easy as it does when you're down in this non-electrical taped area. So that's a pretty cool little thing they did on that there. It looks like it's a two-piece construction. Looks like the board itself is screwed onto the head here, but I mean it's super solid. I mean this thing is not gonna break, which was the biggest gripe about the Hawg Trough. Even, you know, me, myself, and I hated that about the Hawg Trough. I've snapped them in pretty much every single way that you can imagine. I snapped them with a smallmouth bass flopping on it, and I've snapped it by putting my seat into a low position going through rapids and forgetting that it was under there. I've snapped them by throwing it in the bed of my truck, and it just, you know, something slides into it while you're driving and it breaks. I wouldn't recommend putting it in the bed of your truck like I did, but you live and you learn. You know, the other thing that people talked about was the accuracy on these. If you line these heads up, and you can, I hope you can see from that right there, they use pretty much the same on these as far as geometry, I guess. I didn't really pay attention to it in that class, but I guess it would be the geometrical shape of this is pretty much the same. The catch board is just a little bit higher, which, you know, one thing that I would have changed, and maybe this would have affected the strength of the board, but I wouldn't have made this so much of a U. I would have kind of angled it out and kind of tapered it a little bit. My only concern is if you get a real big fish on this and real wide fish, that it's going to be an issue getting the fish flat down to the board, and the fish could kind of sit up above the board on this, and you want to get the fish flat down on the board to get the most accurate measurement. But anyway, a lot of people talk about the measurement on these, and honestly, if you line the 0 point up on these boards, they are dead on to each other. I mean, there's not even a hair difference between the numbers. So if you consider the Hawg Trough to be accurate, this Ketch Board is the exact same thing. That was one thing that I was kind of curious to see on this, is how it matched up with the Hawg Trough, because if there was a little bit of a difference between the two, then that kind of runs into the issue of, well, if a Ketch Board's going to measure this a hair larger than the Hawg Trough, then the issue's going to come in. If you got one of them fish, and we've all had it there, where you're a hair short and you throw it on this board and all of a sudden you're touching, that'd be an issue for having a competition that has two different boards. But that's not going to be an issue. They are dead spot on. The one main thing that I really do like about this number, or these numbers, that they're engraved in there like that, and it's the aluminum part of the board, is that you don't have to mark these lines up. So pretty much everybody that has one of these, and I'm hoping that we can get everybody on board with everybody eventually using this board, everyone's lines are going to be the exact same width, and they're going to be the exact same color. You know, I see a lot of these Hawg Troughs that, I mean, people look like they've taken the widest tip marker you can find, and you know, you can't even really see any yellow on the board anymore. The lines are so thick. You know, and that just makes it hard for the judges to judge a fish when you do that. You know, thin lines are better, and you know, these lines they're perfect. I mean, they're a nice thin line. They're all the same size. Every board's going to have the same size line because it's machined. It's just going to be so much easier, I think, to tell fish sizes with this board over the Hawg Trough. We'll see how the colors affect it. I know there's a red color, there's an orange, there's a lime green. I'm sure at some point throughout this year we're going to find the it color. We're going to find the color that, you know, is the easiest color to tell how big the fish actually is, and see the lines in the fish and see where the tail ends. Until then, you know, we'll put them through the ringer and we'll see what happens. I don't think we're going to have an issue seeing the tails on any of them from some of the photos I've seen from the KBF to 10. You know, shadows can make it hard with the black board, which is, you know, why I went with the blue when it was available. You know, I do love the look of the orange and the lime green, but, you know, I got a blue one. One real cool thing about this is this right down here on the bottom says uncompromisingly American made. You never apologize for being American. That's really cool that it's made here. You know, that's a big thing with me with a lot of the stuff that I try to buy. It's got two holes in the board. It's got one here at the top right there, and then it's got one here down at the bottom, which I'm sure you could tie a little rope or something on there, or tether it to your kayak, or if you want to put a float on it, you might need a buoy to hold this up. No, I'm kidding. I think it weighs like 7 pounds, so you know, it'll be a bigger weight obviously than you need to keep this bad boy afloat. But again, I fish out of a Hobie Pro Angler, and the sidewalls on that thing are massive compared to most kayaks, and I haven't knocked something out of my kayak yet. You know, this being 26 inches and everything, this will fit perfectly. You know, this way inside the kayak. You know, the Hawg Trough now at 30 inches, I kind of angled it a little bit, which does help with the fish. I might still do this with this one here and kind of angle it and let the fish fall down. And you know, this cracked me up, honestly. There were a lot of people that complained that the Ketch Bass board is only 26 inches long. To be honest with you, I'm going to keep this Hawg Trough in my kayak in the off chance that I catch a bass over 26 inches this year in a tournament. But I would say that for the vast majority, the 99.99999, repeating of course, bass that get caught in competition this year, this board's going to be fine. Most of those bass are going to be 26 inches or smaller. But for you guys, if you hog chasers, for you mega jaint boys out there, they have a 32-inch board you can get, or like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep a hog trough in my front hatch, and on the chance that I catch a bass over 26 inches, I'll just use the hog trough to measure that one. It does have a QR symbol on here. I'm trying to know if you can tell with that shadow in the basement here, but it's got a QR symbol on the bottom there. I'm not sure what that is for, but I'm hoping, and it would be really cool if that could be somehow integrated into a measuring system at all, to make sure the board's not I guess altered, or I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point right now. But it's got a QR symbol on there. It's got the serial number on there. The fish's face shouldn't cover that, unless you got one of them big old Mississippi head looking fish. But yeah, I mean, this thing's sweet. It's it's metal. You could defend your home with one of these. I think probably wouldn't be as good as some other available techniques, but this thing's solid. I mean, it's not ridiculously heavy, in my opinion. It's obviously heavier than the Hawg Trough, but it's not that bad. I think it's 7 pounds with the cradle, which, I mean, that's nothing to me, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's got 1/2-inch lines, 1/4-inch lines, just like we need. All the lines are nice and straight, and they look good, and it's a great finish. It's a great product, I think, as far as looks and feel goes. Ketch really knocked it out of the park in those two categories, and I'll make a follow up, and we'll see how it performs in the water. My first time using it's going to be at the KBF National Championship. So, Ketch, I hope you guys didn't send me a voodoo board. No bad luck boards in my boat. If that's the case, I might have to sink it, and I'll send you guys the GPS coordinates or where you can find it. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool board, man. I really like it, and it was an area of our market that needed something different. We just needed something other than the Hawg Trough, and Ketch stepped up, and say what you will about them, and say what you will about the design or the price or anything, but they went for it, and there's something to be said about that. So one other thing that I want to quick talk about, it's got these in the mail the other day, is I got some of the Adams Custom Lures, the Encounter 75, which is my favorite jerkbait that I throw. It's a 75 size. Before I threw this, I threw a lot of Lucky Craft 78s, the pointers, and I love that size of crankbait. I think it just mimics the bait fish in the lakes that I fish perfectly. So this is a little bit smaller than that, but nothing that the fish really key in on. The fact that it's smaller, they still hit it, they still annihilate it. But this bait here, these are tuned to suspend at 40 degrees at 4 feet, and they'll actually suspend at a 45-degree angle to mimic the bait fish. There's a lot of baits that just suspend flat, and that's great and everything, but I think that a bait suspending at 45-degree angle like that and sitting like that in the water, there's just something about that just mimics those dying fish and just drives those bass nuts. I love the finish on these. Adam hand paints all of these. Him and his wife hand tunes these baits. So if you end up ordering these and you need these to suspend at a different temperature, or even a different depth, which you can change based on the split rings that you put on these, you just shoot him a message on there and just say, hey man, I know they're tuned at 40 degrees, but I need to suspend at 55 or whatever. He'll do it for you. I mean, he tests every single one of these. A lot of people say that, man, like, you put out baits and you literally test every single one. Yeah, he sits there and he puts them in the fish tank at his house, and that water is 40 degrees, and he puts them down there and he suspends them. And there's something to be said about that. Every single bait that comes through goes through a QC before it even gets to your door. But these the paint on these baits is just it's great. I mean, you know the issues that a lot of baits have, that as soon as you flake them, as soon as you have a pike hit them, or I was down in Louisiana and I caught a 30-inch bowfin down there, and this is the bait that I caught it on, a little different color. I don't have one sitting here. A little different color of this, and bowfin got some teeth on them. They'll rip your bait apart, and that bowfin hit this, and he knocked a little nick of paint off, but that was it. You can run your finger over that nick, and you're not going to just keep nicking paint off. It's going to nick that once from that tooth, and that's going to be it. And these bills on these they're a reinforced bill. I just worked a show with Adam, and he had a bait there from a guide service that caught over like 130 some fish on the Susquehanna River, and was fished for 2 months, and it was banged off of rocks and stuff. And that front bill actually started to file down and get flat instead of being round from the rocks, but never broke, never loosened, never anything. There's some baits out there that are way, way, way more expensive than what he charges for one of these encounters, and you hit a rock with them, and that bill is gonna, pop off. You hit your front windshield on your boat when you're casting that, or hit something on your back cast, and that bill is going to be breaking off. These bills are not going to break off. There's even a bait out there that's something like 3 times the amount of these, and I've seen them actually break right down the middle from hitting something. And this bait's not going to do that. If you want a bait that you can put through the riggers, I mean, this is that bait. His finishes are phenomenal. This one here is one of the new holographic colors. I don't know if you can see that on there, but it's got like a holographic finish to it. They got the red eyes on them. They got the nickel-plated VMC hooks, the nickel-plated split rings, so you're not gonna get any rust. They got a cool little design here. These are all his own molds, they have a little bit of teeth on the side here into the mold, which looks cool. But I've actually found that it seems to create a little bit of drag in the water, so it grabs a little bit of water and gives it some more action. You can fish this fast, slow, medium. You can burn it back to the boat, and it's going to have a tight wobble coming back to the boat. It's got a nice rattle in it. You can jerk it, and it's going to jerk, and it's going to hunt, and it's going to go out there, and like I said, it'll suspend at that 45-degree angle, which is super key. I got a couple more colors here. This is the packaging for that. Really cool packaging that he's got for the Encounter 75. And I'm going to pop this one open if I can. This is like a chrome, which, if you ever thrown a rattle trap, this is that like chrome with the blue back, like a rattle trap has. And I mean, you can see the paint on that. How cool that paint is. It's an awesome paint job. So we got that one there. We got a perch here. This is a holographic perch, which is a great color in our northern lakes up here, especially for smallies. This one's holographic. Let's see if you can see that in there. So it's got like a holographic foil on it. And he's got, so in this same exact perch pattern, he's got like a translucent perch, which you can see through a little bit, which is phenomenal for clear water. And then we got the chrome perch, which is a chrome like this, but it's this color, what I'm talking about, which is a great flashy bait. Then you have this one here, which is kind of in between, but has a holographic foil to it, and that holographic, especially up in my lakes up here, is just drives them nuts. But I mean, these baits are just, they catch fish. A lot of people say, man, you throw a 75 size jerk bait, what are you doing? Like, I only throw 100 size jerk baits, and I'm telling you, man, if you don't throw a 75, 78 size jerk bait, put one in your boat and start throwing it, because there are times where they will just key in on this and they will just annihilate it. So here's one of the translucent colors here. This one's got like a black back with a chartreuse belly on it, but you can see through it right there. You can see the weight transfer, the BB's in there, and the the rattle and all that. So like I said, that'll make it sit at that 45-degree angle. But hopefully you can see that bait there. Super high quality finish on these baits, and these retail for I believe $8.50, $8.49 on the website. It's adamscustomlures.com, and you click on the bait shop. You can find the Encounter in there. They got the Attack 1.25, which is a great square bill crankbait, especially in the river. It's a little bit smaller. Hey, sorry about that. So the camera died in the middle of that. So I was talking about the Attack 1.25, so I went and grabbed some. So right here you got the that's KVD 1.5. So you can see the body shape of that. The Attack 1.25, it's slightly smaller than the KVD 1.25. The one thing that this is different is this has a tighter wobble to it than the KVD 1.5. There's not as much resistance when you're reeling it. You can also make this bait hunt. You can fish like a jerk bait, and it'll kind of swing out to the side more, or you can just burn it back, or reel it slow and have a nice little wobble coming back to it. So here's one of the little patterns here. This isn't the perch pattern, but that's probably one of the closest fish I would mimic. Again, these have nickel-plated VMCs, nickel-plated split rings. Here's a real cool color here, and I've caught some real big smallmouth in the river with this fish, with this bait. Hopefully you can see that from there, but it's like a real blackish brown iridescent color. It looks awesome in the water, especially when the sun's at high noon. Packaging for the Attack 1.25, just like the Encounter. But for the Attack, this is actually a spring crawl here. Mr. Kevin Baxter, this one's from Adam, this one's coming down to you. Kevin Baxter, TackleFreaks.com. If you haven't, check him out. TackleFreaks.com has pretty much everything that you could want and need. Make sure you check him out on Facebook too, Kevin the Baitman. Posts some really cool videos, and he will tell you everything from the reel that he uses to the line to the rod to the color to everything about the bait and the setup he uses. He's one of the best accounts to follow if you want to learn new techniques or just improve on what you already know. But yeah, so you got the Attack 1.25 and you got the Encounter 75, both from Adam's Custom Lures. Stay tuned, because a little birdie told me that there might be a couple new baits coming out over the next, we'll see what time frame that hits, but keep an eye out for him, and follow him on Facebook through all the new news and what show he's at, new colors he's got coming out. And like I said, if you have any questions about the bait, shoot me a message, or shoot Adam a message on the page there, and I'm sure he can help you out, and any custom colors that you need or anything like that. He's a pretty awesome painter. But yeah, so those are some Adam's Custom Lures right there. Like I said, the Attack 1.25, the Encounter 75, and here is the Ketch Board. And my first impressions on this thing, it gets an A+ from me. It's got everything I'm looking for in a board and then some. So we'll see how it works in the water next.